Okay, I want to kick off a video on how to build this desk. This is just an open design desk. You could add a shelf or a drawer to it later on, and I might add to this video those options. But you know, I get a lot of people who want to build a desk, and they want to build a fairly simple desk that they can get done in a reasonable amount of time, and I think this is a good desk for that. So it has an angle on the front, so the front legs kind of angle down at about 10 degrees, give it a little bit more of a design. It's going to be pretty sturdy, pretty stout. It doesn't take a lot of gluing, so that means you can build it in a relatively short amount of time. The top is the only piece that's really glued up. There is some other glue, but it doesn't have to sit overnight as much because you just keep going with the project. And that's something I really like about it. So it has enough space here to get your legs underneath it. And this one's made out of ash. So, you know, you can make this out of really any kind of wood that you want, and that could work out. I'll do it once around view now with the camera, and just to try to give you a couple more views of it, what we have here. Okay, there's the back. The back is really simple, and once again, here is the front. Kind of gives you a nice feel for what that would be like. Pretty good desk. All right, so the first step on this desk project will be the legs. I always save the top for last because then it helps prevent some warpage and just makes things a little bit better in the long run. So I always start with the legs first. For this desk, I'm going to make a frame style leg. I'm going to make one for the left side and one for the right side. I think this is a good way to go about this. I'm trying to keep this a good, simple, clean build, and that's how I'm going to start off with. So this will be the back leg. So I made two pieces that are the same. They are 3.5 inches wide by 30 inches long, and that is the back leg. The front leg has a 10-degree angle on it. So there's a 10-degree angle on the top, 10-degree angle on the bottom. And if I measure that out to the longest point, it was 31 1/8. So that's the longest. The longest point measures 31 1/8 from that long point to this long point, and still 3 inches wide. So I always cut the angle first, and then I can measure over. I can actually take my scrap piece that I cut off and then mark it out where I need to cut it. So that way that length works out. Now if I could also measure the shorter length, which is 30.5. So 30.5 would be from this point to this point. So if that helps you out at all, it's depending on how you want to go about doing that. So then you have these two. This will be the top part of the frame near the top, and this will be near the bottom. And this one here is from the longest point is 14.5, okay, and I put some pocket holes on it. So I did these a mirror image, so the pocket holes will be on the inside, so these should be a mirror image of each other, and that will help us hide the pocket holes. And then this one over here is 17.5, okay, and then I did the same thing. I mirrored the image and I put pocket holes in it. So I just put two on the angle. When I did the angle, I just put the angled side right up against the fence on the backhoe machine, and I drilled it with the angle all the way up against the fence. So I just put two screws, pocket holes are about 1 inch in, and then, like I said, they're mirrored. So now I'm going to assemble these using some 1.25 inch square drive screws. So I have my two frames now. They're just a mirror image of each other. So all the pocket holes are on the inside, and the angle is going to go to the back of the desk. I'm going to keep the front straight. I think the angle just add a little more to it. So now I'm going to thicken these up a little bit. So remember, all this was 3/4 inch material. Everything was 3/4 inches thick. I used 1 1/4 inch fine thread square drive screws to put this together. And so now I'm just trying to thicken this up. So I want this to look a little bit beefier. And in order to do that, I'm going to put a brace right here. So this brace is going to go all the way across. Oops, I'm sorry, this one goes up here. It goes all the way across except for 3/4 inch at the back. Okay, so the back of the desk we're going to leave 3/4. And then we'll put this one down here and the same thing. So it goes all the way across except for 3/4 inch at the back. So now to install these, you could do this a couple different ways. You could just put down a little bit of glue and a couple air nails. You could put down some glue and then you can put a couple screws in here. I think I'm probably going to put down some glue and just a couple air nails to hold it together, maybe clamp it. Before you can do that though, this has to be pretty flush, so you might actually have to sand this a little bit before you install these pieces. Okay, so that's a little bit more flush. What I've done here is I've rounded the corners on this. Okay, I took a 3/8 round over bit on the router and I just went all around these corners. On the inside here I went clockwise around, and then on the outside I went counterclockwise, so I went the opposite way. I left the top, I left that straight. I didn't router that, and I didn't router the feet. You could router the feet. I wouldn't router the top, but you could router the feet. And then this is one that I did not router yet, so I want you to see the difference. I mean, this gives it a lot more, it's a smoother look to the eye, and it's really going to help a lasting effect, okay? Because these sharp edges tend to take some abuse with the life of the product, where if you can round over that, you know, that will really help out. So right now I'm looking at the outside of the desk. So this is actually, if I'm facing the part you'd sit on, this would be my right side of my desk. And so on the inside, this is where I have some of my air nail holes, and I think it would be real beneficial to fill those and sand them. It's not, you know, critical because this will be the inside, but there's quite a few of them. You don't want, you know, you'd be better off here to put a bunch of clamps and wait for it to dry. I think, instead of using so many air nails. But the air nails do speed the process up if you're in a hurry to get this done. I always try to angle my gun so it goes the direction of the grain too. That helps hide some of the air nails. So this one's going the wrong way. All right, if I turn that the other way, it'd be less likely to see it when you put the fillet. So you can kind of see that one's going this way. That one's going to be more noticeable. So this one over here will be more noticeable. But I sanded all this. I'm going to do a little more sanding after I routed it now. you're trying to do as much sanding as you can right now before you put on the back stretchers, and that will really help out. But I'm getting excited because I have some parts put together. I have some parts sanded. I'm going to do a little more routering, and then we should be good. All right, so now we have our stretcher boards, 2 long boards that will go across the back. You could vary the length of these. I picked 50 inches. It could be less than that. Remember, you don't want to get too carried away on the length. So then you're going to make on the ends, you're going to measure up 3/4 of an inch and make a mark. Measure over 3/8, make a mark. So 3/4, 3/8. And that gives you some indications where you're going to drill. So I did this end over here. So first I drilled with my 3/8 Forstner bit, and I drilled down to about that lip. And then I drilled with this 1/8 inch twist drill bit just to give the screw a nice pilot hole to go through. So those are the 2 bits you're going to use. You'll do that on that end as well. So you'll do that on both boards. All right, I'm at a really important step now. I'm going to assemble this. And one thing I really want to do is prep this out really good. I want to clamp it down to a table. I chose to do this upside down. I think it will go a lot smoother for me. Sometimes people will try to do something like this in all these awkward positions, and it really doesn't go as well. So if you take some time and arrange this now, use some clamps. So I got that leg clamped down, I got this leg clamped down. I've used a square, so I put a square in here to make sure that's 90. And then I have a square right here ready to go to make sure that's 90. So it's nice and flat. So I'm ready to put these back stretchers in. You'll see right here, it's not quite square right there, so I'm going to pull this tight, put my first screw in. When I push this out a little bit, then this part gets tight, and then it's 90 degrees. So you kind of want to keep checking the 90. You can even clamp the square right on the leg if you want, and that would kind of help you out as well. So once I get my 4 screws in this stretcher, then I can put my next stretcher on up here. And it's going to be a little weak yet, so you want someone to help you take it off the table. And you want to give yourself plenty of time to do this step. You don't want to just get one of these done and have to stop. So make sure you have a good 20-25 minutes to do this whole process. If you don't, wait until you do have that much time. And so once you take it off the table, it's going to be a little weak until we get the braces on for the top. Okay, so now I have this laying on its back. I put both of the stretchers in, and I cut these 2 additional stretchers I'm going to put in there just to make the back a little thicker to match the rest of it. And I think it's going to give it a little more support. So in order to put those in, I just cut these to exact length, and they're going to go in here. I'm going to use a little glue, and I'm going to put some pocket holes, some screws in the pocket holes on both ends. And then I didn't force these in, okay? I cut them a couple times. I left them a little long and then trimmed them to length. So they go in really nice, and that's what you want. If you force them in, you're actually going to break your screws out that you just put in. So you want to make sure you don't force these pieces in. But yeah, you're going to see those pocket holes a little bit from the inside of the desk. So you could plug those, or you could, but it's going to be far enough in there that hopefully it won't distract from the desk. What I'm doing here is making some slots for expansion. So I just take a small drill bit, about 3/16 diameter, drill 3 holes right in a row, leave a little space between the 3 holes, and then I just kind of wobble the drill bit at an angle, drill it a little bit angle, and then just make a slot. So that slot is designed for the screw to move through so that the top can expand in width. You really need to allow the top to expand. If you just screw the top down and screw it down good, it will crack because it will not be able to expand. So I did 3 expansion slots on these rails. Okay, here I am gluing up the top. This is really important that you dry fit this. So before you start, you should be dry fitting this. The top I have in narrower boards. Instead of using one really wide board, it's cut down to 6-inch wide boards or so. And the reason for that is it really helps out with warping. And then you try to match the grain and the color. So these all came from the same tree, a couple boards in a row. And so the color match is real nice. The grain sometimes can be a struggle to match if you have a lot of figurative grain. So you see I'm putting a little bead of glue on both surfaces. So this is called double spreading. I have the boards rotated at the end, so the grain of the wood goes up and down the rings, if you look at the end grain. So now I'm starting to clamp these, and I'm working my way from one end to the next. So I have that one all nice and flush, and then I adjust the next clamp. See how I had all my clamps ready to go before I started? And I just keep working my way down. So with my left hand right now, I'm adjusting the boards as I tighten the clamp and trying to get them nice and flush together. So this is kind of a wide glue up. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to put a clamp on the top too to help, but these were laying pretty flat for me, so I didn't have to do that. But before I did any of this, remember, I dry fit everything, got all my clamps ready. Notice I'm using quite a few clamps to really try to do a good job. A lot of times people don't use enough clamps. I didn't use any biscuits or any screws or anything in there. It's just all edge grain wood, and the glue does a really good job bonding that if it fits nice. So that's why I took my time to use a joiner and get it to fit really good. So then I just double check everything, go back through, tighten my clamps again, and over on this side I found that, well, I could maybe pull that just a little more flush. So I grabbed one more clamp. I'm cleaning off the extra glue right now, and then I grabbed the extra clamp just to help press that joint just a little bit better. I thought I could do if I put a clamp going the other direction. So I don't need clamps going end for end really, and I see people do that quite a bit. Okay, I am on the home stretch of this. I made this nice little brace here just to help support the weight of the top a little bit, and I'm going to connect that. I have my washers ready for my expansion slot, so this is a good size washer to use, and I'm going to put that right in the center and then drive my screw down. The idea is that it just slides back and forth. When the top expands, it will move back and forth on that slot. I'm not going to do anything on this back. I'm not going to glue that down. I'm not going to screw that down. I'm going to see how that goes. There is a chance I might want to put like a L bracket here someday with a slot in it for expansion, but I'm going to see if I can get away with doing nothing there. Then over here I have 3 more expansion slots. I have this pocket hole in, and I also rounded these edges a little bit, so just to soften those edges. And then this piece is a 10-degree angle, so it laid down good. I sliced it at a 10-degree angle there. And I also took this and made that a 10-degree angle. So just for a little more fun there, I tried to dress that angle up. When you're cutting the length of this, it should be the exact same length as this back piece, okay? Because you want to maybe pull this in just a little bit, or you just want to make sure that's a right angle and that fits in good. So I measured the distance around here, so it's the same as the other side. I did leave a little more overhang on the ends than I did the back and the front. I just kind of decided to try that style. A lot of times I'll make it the exact same overhang, but I would leave an overhang. I think it looks goofy when we cut them right up tight to the project. So when you're working on the top, remember to leave a little bit longer than you need and wider, and that really makes it easier to work with.